Good afternoon. I'm Liz Reyes. Thanks for joining us. Crews telling us that St. John Parish officials today say that they see no off-site impacts from the Marathon refinery fire. This update comes as the Garyville Mount Airy Math and Science Magnet School canceled classes today as a precautionary health measure. Olivia Vidal reports.
Although the fire has been extinguished, crews at the Marathon refinery in Garyville remain on site monitoring the impacted area. Right now, the main priority remains the safety of those on site, those neighboring the refinery, first responders, and to limit any environmental impacts. A Marathon spokesperson said on Friday a pipe started leaking into a containment area and ignited, burning 2 tanks and sending dark smoke into the sky. But right now, the refinery is operating at a reduced rate, and a plan is being developed to return to normal operations. Meanwhile, residents near the plant worry about possible chemicals in the air that could affect their health, prompting today's school closure.
I heard a noise and I looked, and then I started smelling, my nose was burning a little, my chest, I have asthma. I was taking the treatment at the moment. And when we came outside, we seen the smoke, and then I heard sirens in the neighborhood saying evacuate.
We've got air monitoring around the perimeter and in the community, so the readings have been clear. So I think we need to pay attention to what the officials say.
An investigation is now underway to determine what exactly caused the leak and fire at the Marathon refinery. But in this morning's update, a Marathon spokesperson says air monitoring results continue to show no off-site impact. 3 organizations conducted independent air quality checks: the EPA, the State Department of Environmental Quality, and a private contractor for Marathon. This is the 3rd fire at the refinery in recent months. Again, the Garyville Mount Airy Math and Science Magnet School remains closed today to students and faculty, but the Marathon Refinery set up a community assistance hotline. That number is toll-free. You can call it. It's right there at the bottom of your screen. Reporting in St. John the Baptist Parish, Olivia Vidal, Fox 8, Local First.